Hey guys, welcome back to the Appalachian Outfeed. Today I was going to talk about 3 different options for sharpening the chain on your chainsaw. Let's start with the worst one first. So I'm not the best chain sharpener in the world. I know that. I try and I do okay, but I'm all about trying to get the best performance out of that chain as I can. So I decided to spring for a sharpening jig to go on the chainsaw to make sure I was holding the correct angles and holding them consistently rather than whatever's going on doing it freehand. So to that end, I sprung for a Granberg International G106B File-N-Joint chainsaw sharpener, and I'm looking down because I'm reading it off the actual tool itself, and this is it. And I really thought that this thing was going to revolutionize the way I was filing my chain. Had high hopes for this thing. So I get it in, and right up front I've got to say the fiddle factor connected with this thing is kind of off the charts. Now look, I don't mind fiddle factor if I'm getting the results, right? So if it takes me a minute to get this thing set up correctly, and then I can roll with it once it's set up and I'm getting good results out of it, fine, we'll live with the fiddle factor, because that's just the cost of doing business, right? But for me, the reality is, even after all that fiddle factor, I was not getting great results with this thing. I've used it about a half a dozen times, and the results I've gotten are just subpar. And I don't really understand the reason for that. I've got still the instructions. I've gone through them multiple times. It's not that involved. It shouldn't be, to get this thing set up. But it's just been really tough for me to use this thing. One of my complaints about it is, so it's got the numerical adjustments. So it's got the degrees on here for, you know, how you're sitting on a tooth, like a 30-degree angle on the tooth across the top plate. And then there's another setting on here for how your file sits in relation to the bar and the chain itself. And then there's another adjustment up top that raises or lowers the file as it sits in the tooth. And I don't know, I like I say, I've used this thing about a half a dozen times, and it just, I don't know, I almost feel like maybe on a worn chain, one that you've been running and filing for a little bit, and you end up, well, this tooth got rocked and this one didn't, so you end up having to file one back more than another one. And maybe, you know, you set it for one tooth, and then when you get another tooth that's not the same dimension, maybe it doesn't do as good on that tooth. I don't know. But this business of having, you know, teeth at different having filed different amounts on each tooth, I think that's just a reality that we all have to live with. I'm not one of those guys who's going to file them all down to the shortest tooth. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's been how I do business. So this thing has been a disappointment. I don't know, it cost me 50 bucks, something like that, to get it to the door, maybe a little bit more, I don't remember. But I could have bought quite a few regular files with that money. I'm going to continue to try to figure this thing out and see if I can get it working for me. If I can't, it's going on Facebook Marketplace or something. So that's the Granberg File-N-Joint G106B. Well, what I started out filing with, of all things, was this little Stihl, I think they call it a 3-in-1 file jig. And this thing is obviously more my speed. It's got 2 round files in here for your teeth, and then 1 flat file for your rakers. And the deal is, you line up this edge right here parallel with the bar, and then you file the tooth, right? I guess it would be file the tooth. Either way. And then so you do, you know, one set of teeth going one way, and then you flip it over and do the opposite set of teeth. This thing is deceptively simple and deceptively effective. I was getting really good results with this thing, and that was before I got to Granberg. And it continues to do a very good job for me. I've got 2 of these. One I've got set up for my little Pico chain on the MS 180, and then I got another one set up for my bigger saws. So yeah, man, this thing, if you're a novice or rank amateur at file and chain, this will get you in the game. Now, these things are obscenely expensive for what they are. I think this is 30 bucks for this thing, maybe a little bit more. I don't know that I paid quite that much for it. When I bought it, maybe like 25, but I think they've gone up in price. But nonetheless, this saves you a trip to the chainsaw shop, to have them put your chain on the grinder. It works in the field. It's a great little setup. There's some other brands that do the same thing, the exact same thing. But at the time, this was the one that was on my radar, and this is what I got. So yeah, man, and you would think that maybe because this thing is also hitting your rakers as you're filing the tooth, that maybe it would set the rakers too low, but I have not found that to be the case. I don't know how this thing ends up being self-adjusting, but it works out really well. So this is a highly recommended piece of gear, even though it's, again, obscenely overpriced. This thing ought to be, I don't know, 15 or 20 bucks, and they're going for 30 or 35 at this point. But nonetheless, go get you one of these. They do come, I believe, yeah, they do come with the files and files installed in them. So you're buying two round files plus a flat file. So you're going to need to pay attention to your file size when you order one of these. You can't just order one blindly and think it's going to work with your chain. You have to match it to your chain size. So yeah, man, this works really great. Now the irony in all this is between watching Buck and Billy Ray and Guilty of Treason and Richard Flagg all on YouTube, I've finally kind of figured out and cracked the code on freehand chain filing, and I'm actually, I think, doing a better job and getting better results freehanding stuff excuse me, than using any of these jigs, which is to me a little bit incredible, but there it is. So you can think of these things as kind of training wheels for you, and once you figure out what it is you're looking for as far as an end result go, you can kind of reverse engineer that, and you know, as you're hitting those teeth, you're going, okay, I'm going in the right direction, or I'm not, and I need to make some adjustments. It's not rocket surgery, but there is a little bit of finesse involved. So like everybody, I'm still on the path, still trying to figure this out and get better at it, but I find myself using these jigs less and less. So maybe I think what I would suggest for somebody new to sharpening saw chain will be to start with this guy right here, and then you know, from time to time pick up just a regular file and see if you can get the results you're looking for, because this will kind of train your neuromotor pathways on the sharpening part of it, and you start to learn visually what you're looking for on each tooth, and you can start to mimic that freehand. So it's a pretty cool journey. It's nice to be able to freehand it and not be relying on the jigs, I think, and then you can kind of, you know, kind of fine-tune and finesse results. So there you go, guys. That's been my journey so far with sharpening saw chain. Still trying to get really good at it. And again, I've said this before, the chain is what makes contact with the wood. You know, at the end of the day, you can have whatever power head you want pulling a chain, but if the teeth aren't sharp, you're wasting your time and energy trying to cut with a dull chain. So having a sharp chain is where it's at. Give me a weaker power head with a sharp chain rather than a dull chain with a great power head. you get it. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys on this one. We'll see you again next time.